bitch. Right, no, I think I got it. I'm hoping that that's still doing it. For some reason, it's playing my audio through the desktop and not through. Yeah. Oh, good evening. It is Saturday night. It has just gone 8 o'clock, and it's time for some Doctor Who. We might have some technical difficulty this evening already before we even start. Lucosa's already here. Um, good evening, Lucosa. We are doing Frontier in Space, and with me as always is Chris. Say hello, Chris.
Hello, Chris, and hello, Chris, to Lakosa, Chris. Chris, hello. I'm confused now. I don't know who I am anymore.
So we've got an episode this evening in Frontier in Space. Um, I like this episode a lot. Okay, I do like it. There's things I don't like about it, but I like the things I do like about it. I like a lot. So Chris, what do you know of Frontier in Space?
What do I know? I know Master, Daleks, a redesigned Sonic Screwdriver,
Mm-hmm.
Roger Delgado's Last Hurrah,
Yeah.
and you've told me the sets are really good, and Luke Oza's told me it's one he really likes. So I've got a good feeling about this one.
All right. So if I was to say anything about this story, um, this is Doctor Who doing sci-fi. This is Doctor Who stepping up the game. And when I say that it doesn't just look good, the production values look good. It's hard to split this up, right? Because even though this is a six-parter, technically it's the first half of a 12-parter. In many ways. So there are things I don't like about this episode, and the end is kind of one of them. But I like where it goes because it's instead of it being, instead of it just being its own story and wraps up at the end, it sort of does wrap up in the end. But if you look back to how the Hartnell years used to do it, whereby the end of the episode used to be the tease for the next, it kind of does that. So don't look at this as just six parts. Look at it as the prelude to a bigger story, and that's probably the best way to look at it. Um, so like, yeah, great episode. Not flawless, but has so many good points that are number the bad. Yeah. Now, um, I did mention last week that it's the sets in this are lovely. They are absolutely lovely. With very minimal, and I mean minimal, redressing, I think they could have shot a movie on this. The locations that they chose were outstanding, like proper. I mean, I've seen Hollywood budgeted films that don't scout locations as well as what they did for this. Um, like the notion of the frontier in space is that it ends up bouncing back and forth between sort of what's happening on Earth and what's happening in space. But when they go to Earth, because it's supposed to be Earth in the future, they've made a really good effort at making it Earth in the future. Like they've specifically chosen locations that are quite funky, that are really sort of a little bit more futuristic uh, than you'd otherwise assume. Because normally, when you say Doctor Who does futuristic, you normally go, "Oh, what are we in for?"
Tim Foyle.
Yeah, exactly. But we still had a period in Doctor Who whereby the budget for these stories is pretty good. And look, as bad as Carnival of Monsters was, I'm glad they saved the money there and put it into this. In fact, I would say that Carnival of Monsters was the sacrificial lamb, so that the next 12 episodes could be as good as they are. I don't overhype them because again, there's things in this episode that really, and it's part of the writing. But that's something we'll get around to when we watch it. Um, yeah, you're right. This is Roger Delgado's last hurrah. There are images in this that I absolutely think are almost um, perfect Delgado master. Like the close-ups that they do. There's a point in this story whereby, and I'll mention when he comes back around to it, but there's this point in this story where he's trying his best to control Joe, and I don't know whether or not whether it was an accident or intentional. I don't know, but he all goes dark, like the side of his face just goes black, and it's just like that's I don't know if that's accidental or not, but I like it. I like the fact that he just descends into shadow, you know. Given that he's trying something really nefarious. There's a lot of good lighting in this, and I mean a lot of good lighting. It's yeah, what I like with this is the fact that the futuristic stuff feels futuristic enough, and the Draconians feel it's obviously it's been analogous of foreign powers, but they do feel alien enough that I kind of wish that we had more stories with the Draconians, because I think that particularly imagine what you could do with the makeup today. When you see this, you'll see how good the makeup is then. Just imagine what they could do today with that sort of makeup. Given how well they've done it with what they did with the Silurians, if they give these that treatment, I'd be willing to bet that we get something magical. So I think this is a good outing for Pertwee. Before we started, I mentioned that this episode is a bit of John Pertwee doing Jackie Chan before Jackie Chan did it, and it really is. There's quite a bit of chucking him about, and a little bit of parkour before parkour was even a thing. This is Action Man John being Action Man, so I think you're going to see some. Not forgetting the Draconians were John Pertwee's favorite aliens. I think they're underestimated. I think that they are. I think there's a lot to mine from the Draconians. I really do think there's a lot there, and again, this is why I don't like the fact that what Doctor Who does tend to do is that it'll have an alien, it'll put it in do one, and then it'll just move on. It almost disposing of it like Monster of the Week type of thing. When you've got a culture that somebody's actually thought about, there's this irritation I get, because there's a lot more to get out of this, given that how these people operate. They're a bit more Klingon in vibe. But again, they were doing that sort of thing before modern Klingons were doing modern Klingon stuff. So, and there's a lot. Again, there's a lot more mileage in them. A lot more. The actual culture that you could dive into. I think. I think we've got plenty of stuff left to get out of them. I don't know what you know about the Draconians, Chris.
Not a lot. I have just remembered something else I know about this episode. Our Pepper Pot-based exterminating friends
Yes.
are not voiced by Roy Skelton in this one. They are voiced by Michael Wisher, who went on to play a rather famous character.
So I don't want to give too much away. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it is. But Michael Wisher also comes back as Daleks with Roy Skelton.
All right.
So it's it's one of those things that you can see where. I mean, why wouldn't you use Michael Wisher? Why wouldn't you? I mean, if you got that on tap, I mean, yeah. So yeah, both the Draconians and the Ogrons are underrated in my opinion. Both are great in the story. I particularly enjoy the interaction between Delgado and the Ogre. Oh my god, there are times whereby it's hysterical. The reaction from Delgado to some of the stuff the Ogrons are doing doubled me up. I mean, absolutely, just totally doubled me up. No. I don't want to give anything away really. But there's some things that they say, and it's so obvious. And you just see him just sort of like starting to lose his rag, and it's the master trying to keep composure. Um, I think it's brilliant. I think so. His comic timing is something that we've not really talked about. But Delgado actually keeps everything reined in. You know, you feel. I think in this one you feel him as the master. You feel his almost Moriarty like nature, but unlike all the other versions of the master, and I think this is why Delgado is probably the best. He has a touch of flamboyancy that gives him a personality. All the others just have a purpose. They all have I'm evil, I'm doing this, I'm the master, and I want this for a reason. Delgado's master has personality. He has character. He's got charisma. He's got charm. He likes a joke. He likes to have fun. You know, he's not this two-dimensional cardboard cutout villain. He enjoys things. He's not just there to murder people and kill people. He actually does have much more to him. He's almost, you know, he's pretty much the antithesis of the Doctor, in so much as, yeah, he does do what the Doctor would consider to be evil things, but he's also got personality with him. You know, in the same way that the Doctor's got personality. You know, and I would say.
So would you say? Go on, mate. What was you going to say?
No, I would say Delgado contributes more to his character.
Yeah. Would you really say that Anthony Ainley's portrayal was two-dimensional?
I would say he became pantomime.
Oh no, he didn't.
Yeah, but he's a pantomime. Two-dimensional, I don't know. But he didn't have the same right then.
No, he didn't have the same writing. I think he started off on the right path, but they
Yes.
made him pantomime. The further he went along with
The
towards the end of the fifth Doctor and into the sixth and seventh.
particularly when you get to the seventh, I think the best that you get out of Anthony Ainley is either in Keeper of Traken,
Yeah.
or in Survival. But they both they both totally opposites. In that one, you've got this person trying to survive, versus actually in Survival, this person that's really, you know, is unwilling to admit death. You know, there's nothing left for the master in Survival. It's literally about, you know, it's not about conquest, it's not about conquering, it's not about anything. It's literally about just trying to cling on to life. So there's very little between those sorts of portrayals. Whereas I think with Delgado's master, he's had room to enjoy himself, and our master in this has personality. He's got personality. There's much more to him. There's much more depth. He's got layers to his character. You know, you can see him sitting there reading a book and reading, you know, War of the Worlds and stuff like that. You know, he likes a joke. He likes to have a laugh. He likes to have fun. He would happily. You can imagine him and the Doctor sitting down in a very much, you know, like with the X-Men, with Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen. You know, that sort of back and forth where they play in chess and they're having a joke and things like that. That's there with these two. It is very much the same sort of relationship. You know, the closest put between Keeper of Traken and Logopolis for me. I mean, yeah, Logopolis again is a good one. I mean, look, I'm not going to knock Logopolis at all. It's one of my favourite episodes. But I think, you know, once Anthony Ainley starts playing off of, I mean, you've only got to look at where it goes, really, where Doctor Who goes at the time. He starts playing off Peter Davison, and he starts having a bit of fun. But then it drifts with Colin Baker into things like Mark of the Rani, which is just one of the worst written, most illogically directed episodes I've ever seen.
You're not a fan, are you?
It could have been so much better, but I mean the direction didn't help. The direction for that episode did not help at all, and that's part to do with the blocking. when before they even set up the cameras, and part was to do with the staging, whereby they've set up the cameras and somebody didn't turn around and go, this doesn't work, and that didn't happen. So
Yeah, Roger Delgado
yes,
is the master. There always was, always
but
will
this
be. He's the de facto master. The trouble is with Anthony Ainley.
yeah,
I'm looking at it with my nostalgia specs on because when I was sort of like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12,
yeah.
you had the end of Tom Baker and the beginning of Peter Davison, and that's when I was watching it, and he was the master. So I've always got that. I've
There's
got that soft spot for his
it's not only that. It
portrayal.
was always nice to see him.
Yeah, it was.
That's the thing. It was always nice to see him. I think the best version of the Master to me since Delgado's probably Missy. I think Michelle Gomez had a lot more to her. I mean, yeah, there was a bit where she was just like sort of, oh, she's just crazy, but at least you could see that Michelle Gomez had more to her as well. She liked certain music. She liked listening to things. She had a cruel sense of humor, particularly when she shoved Clara down the hall. I mean, I laughed. I absolutely physically laughed out loud. You know, so yeah, she had cruelty to her. Whereas I think I don't think Delgado has cruelty. He can be cruel. He can be
He's
brutal.
just cold. He's just cold.
Yeah, he can. But that's what I mean. But uh, there's no malice to it. When he kills somebody, he kills them because they're just in his way. But he doesn't hate that person. He's not killing them out of spite or he's just doing it because you're blocking him from getting to his goal. So I mean, he's very, as I said, he's cold. He's cold, calculating, but he's also somebody that at the flip of a coin could be utterly charming. And it just depends on which way the wind's blowing. And I think that's one of the reasons why I think his master works so well is because he is that dangerous as a character, and he is that dangerous, and I don't feel that out of any of the others. I genuinely don't. Even John Sim, when John Sim shows up and he's doing this Fruit Loop bloody master portrayal, which is this damaged master after the whole John Saxon thing. He was just loopy and mad and psycho but there was nothing there. There was nothing. It didn't go any deeper than that. Do you know what I mean? There's the differences are in. I could tell you what Delgado's master liked. I couldn't tell you what John Sims did. I know, Delgado's master would like a smoke of a cigar. I know he'd like a glass of wine. I know he'd like driving around and being chauffeured around and being. I couldn't tell you what John Sims likes and dislikes are. I couldn't possibly go into it because I don't know if the character is that deep. So yeah, personally, I think Peter Pratt was best after Delgado. Very much more desperate. Oh yeah, still shows off Master's characteristics. Yeah, but yeah, you're right. You're right. He is pretty good. He doesn't get that much of a fair out, you know. I wonder what would have happened if he had come back without the makeup.
Or the clock.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that might have been interesting to have a very more sort of thin man kind of vibe to him. That sort of almost ghostly a figure. That might have been interesting though. The sort of half dead looking master. That might have been interesting. But yeah, I think that's one of the big giveaways to what Delgado had over everybody else was the fact that he himself invested a lot into the character, and he brought things. Maybe probably because he might have already seen it from the Professor Moriarty point of view, and might have brought some of those things to the surface, and not just be this manic killer. That might have been part of it.
Do you remember? Well, it's probably about a year and a half ago now. How excited me and you both were when the first viewing of Sacha Dhawan's Master come out on the plane. He was just killing people
Yeah.
just for the hell of it, and we were like, "This is
Yeah.
brilliant," and that went wrong,
Yeah,
didn't it?
I mean, the thing is, we've talked about sort of what we like and what we don't like about the 12th Doctor series, or 13th Doctor series, I should say. Yeah, look, I like the fact that he's just cold. The problem is that there's nothing left else to him. He
And there could have been the beginning of his writing, his story arc was superb. We both said so, and then they just
but
threw it away.
I've said this before. They've even dressed him as Jack Nicholson's Joker, and that's what he's playing. That's all he's playing. There's no. He's just crazy for being crazy. I mean, at least John Sim had the sound of drums, which made an excuse for his craziness. Whereas with Sacha Dhawan, I find it discredible. I find him discredible as the Master, because he's not big enough to be imposing. He's not dangerous enough to be imposing. He's once you disable him, he's not dangerous, and you don't. I find him. If you were to tell me that it came down to, and this is one of the reasons why I don't like some of the writing for the 13th Doctor, a physical contest between the Doctor and Sacha Dhawan's Master, the Doctor wins. Because she is more physically capable than he is. And that's just, I mean, that's just, if you've got a character like that, you don't have them in a physical contest. You have them, they have to outthink the other person. They have to have, it's like, I've said this before, right, about Darth Vader, right? You get all these Star Wars fans thinking that Darth Vader is the biggest, baddest badass in the universe, right? Darth Vader, through episodes 4 to 6, is a crippled man. He cannot do anything without stormtroopers. He can't. You think of every single scene that you see Darth Vader in, and the only time he ever confronts anyone is when he's alone with Luke, and Luke still gets one up on him. When he finally confronts Luke in Return of the Jedi, Luke whips his ass. I mean, when you first see Darth Vader show up in episode 4, the doors blow open, there's an army of stormtroopers rush in, and he's surrounded by his lackeys. You know, when in Empire Strikes Back, when they attack Hoth, boom, the same situation again. Darth Vader can't do anything without being surrounded by his yes men and his troops, because he's not that capable anymore. He used to be, and he's still very, very dangerous. But he needs backup.
So I'm still trying to work out what you mean by episode 4. There's only 3 films. I don't know.
And he's Star Wars Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi.
I know what you mean.
But no, he can't. He literally can't.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
You know, I mean, even when he goes one-on-one with Luke in Empire Strikes Back, Luke still, thrashes him across the shoulder with a lightsaber. You know, it's only by chance that he manages to beat his son, who is barely trained in the Force, and it's only, it's a pretty fair, even contest when you think about it. It's not like he physically dominates Luke. He backs him into a corner, cuts his hand off. But again, that's just more out of a little bit more skill than with a blade than actually being able to dominate him. The rest of the time, he can't do anything without backup. So this is what Sacha Dhawan needs. Is he needs backup all the time. And if he's not there, if you go one-on-one with him, you can just beat him. You know, it's just I'm not trying to put Darth Vader on too much because I do like the character of Darth Vader, but I think that if you look at all the conflicts and everything, he even when he's flying in the bloody TIE fighter at the end of Star Wars, he's got two people backing him up. He's a coward. He's a villain. Of course he is. He's a henchman. That's what he is. Um, and this is with what you should have with Sasha Dewan is that if you're gonna say that this guy is the villain but he's physically feeble, give him backup. Give him the reinforcement and to back up what he can do. Delgado doesn't need it. Delgado's brutal. Delgado will absolutely kill somebody straight off. He did we seen it in what was it, Terror of the Autons, where he's running up the steps, he just threw somebody over the balcony. Just literally lobbed off the balcony. I didn't even think about it. Um, you wouldn't have that with Sasha Dewan. That's just. But anyway, I think that's enough master talk. I think we're about ready to make a start. I think to this episode. What do you say?
Yeah, yeah. I'm the usual, all the zeros ready to go when you get past your little intro.
Get past yes this little bit. But yeah, I think I will say this. Try to ignore some of the model work. Okay, the model work it is like that. It's at different quality levels. Some of it you just think like maybe they should have had another take. Um, some of it's not bad, but it's what it is. Yeah. Anyway, we're gonna have fun with this anyway. Let's crack on. I'm pressing play for Frontier in Space in 3, 2, 1. Ting BritBox. Ooh, and there we go. Here we go. See, some of the model work, it's not bad.
No, that's not bad at all.
I like some of the designs as well. I just wish, I don't know. I wish some of the later people or some of the people like Derek Mennings that might have been working on this would be better. What do you imagine 1973 Doctor Who hyperspace is going to look like?
It could have looked a lot worse. It looked better than that bloke's cuffs anyway, because they're putting seatbelts on.
And there's the knackered old box. Yeah, I think with very little rework in these sets, they got a lot going on.
Well, they are pretty good, them sets.
See, I like that as well, whereby they're using the set practical lights to actually cut out silhouettes and backlight people.
Yeah,
And again, good use of actual monitors. No CSO used there.
that's not a bad model either, is it?
Again, it's ups and downs with this. It's quite quite like most of the designs in this. Now there's something you don't see very often. A real push in with some serious depth of field in the shot. Yeah, you can't escape it just because it's not in this episode. It's a nice little callback though.
What, to the dish rags?
Yeah. But look at the lighting in this. Think about how washed out some of them are as well, and you see in there like this with actual shadows and darkness and shapes. You know, there's very little that you would have done differently if you were going to light this for a film. I like the fact that the crew got posters stuck to the wall. I want that lounger. It looks so comfy. I can sit down and watch TV on that all day. I know.
Well, that makeup's
Yes,
not too
it's quite
bad, is
good.
it?
But you see something that's really good? This is
What's that?
1973. That is Madam
Yeah.
President. I don't think you twigged on to that.
Madame President?
Yeah. In 1973.
No, I hadn't twigged onto that.
Because we sort of used to it, but you imagine what this was like in 1973. That woman there is the president. President of Earth. I mean, again, not to make a political issue or anything, but this was ahead of its time, way ahead.
Yeah.
I mean, we talking like way before even the Thatcher years. And again, they're not making a thing of it.
These days, they'd have a little subtitle that come up and said, look what we've done. We're the best.
I know, right? That's exactly my point, though. Even before Servalan, I would have said that she inspired Servalan. I would have said the story is heavily, very Blake Seven feeling.
Why don't you just get someone to shoot him there and then?
I'm not going to give anything away. I'll just say, look, things do kick off. Quite well as well. It's quite good. The sonic screwdriver won't work on something. My word. Love Purdy's green shirt and jacket ensemble. Yeah. I mean, I think he does shed it later. If I remember rightly. I think he's yeah, he does. Yes.
All he's missing there is the Deerstalker. Mind you, Tom Baker adopts that for a while later, doesn't he?
Yes.
Notice that the numbers on the dial are changing under the screen there as well. It was
It's
38
really
something
good.
a while ago.
It's really, honestly, I like the fact that the style of the set, right? If you look at it carefully, All the dials look the same. They're all the same. It's not a higgledy piggledy of buttons. They're all these like twisty dialing chrome knobs, but it's all styled that way. This is what I mean. I think that the style of this set is done so well because it's all consistent. Now then, do you recognise him?
I've got a feeling he was the Doctor in 40 Tales.
Yeah, but I mean, he's been in Doctor Who before and since. He's no longer with us, sadly.
I do recognise him, but I don't know the actor's name.
Well, life is long and you are hot. That's one of the lines he uses. I think it's a good clue. He says it to Sally Sparrow while he's laying in his hospital bed.
Well, that means he was in Blink,
Yes.
but I'm trying.
He played the older version of the cop,
Yeah.
the one who died in the rain.
Well, he would have made a good Spock, that bloke, if you take the anger out of him.
He's again, he's one of the characters I have a little bit of an issue with. It's mainly later on. Playing with his props. Now, if I'm right, there's a prop that they use in this later that comes back into other episodes of Doctor Who. It's quite nice. It's a gun prop. There it is. It's a little bit weird. I was going to say this. It's a little bit weird, that view screen. I don't know why that's not more the entire wall.
Well, they've tried to make it look a bit futuristic rather than just a big telly screen, haven't they?
Yeah, but it's just the fact that it's just got this sort of soft, fuzzy edge. So it's just a bit messy. Again, something like that. Look at that. It's an actual working monitor. It's really well designed. I think it's sexy as hell. Purely from your traditional sci-fi aesthetics, it's very, you can imagine that they took a lot of inspiration from, say, World's Fair catalogues and things like that. And small things like these free floating barricades. You know, it's just lots of little things.
Yeah, I thought for a minute there Tom Baker was going to turn up early.
Yeah, no, see, there's a little bit of a conflict of issues here because the Ogrons are these sort of really simple-minded creatures, but they've got spaceships.
Well, I mean, you had the Pakleds in Star Trek, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that you're gonna have to. It would have been nice if they put in some sort of thing whereby they stole the spaceship. See, this model works quite nice, isn't it? It's not like, I mean, it could step it up a little bit, but it's not horrendous.
Yeah, it could be a bit less wobbly, but it's no more wobbly than say Fireball XL5 or Thunderbirds or anything
Yeah.
like that.
What the hell are you wearing? I mean, you can clearly see they're making an effort with this one.
Oh, he can talk.
But again, it's consistent. Look at the outfits. How they are all got similar sort of paddings and cuffs and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, he does kind of look like Mega Man. And that's the end of the first one. Straight through, bolted through. What do you think so far?
So far, that's pretty bloody good.
He looks good though, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
Comparatively speaking, from where we were last week. Yeah, I mean, I think the costumes look good in this. They are funky. They've got a lot of extra padding to them and things like that. But at least they're consistent. They have chosen a style and stuck with it. Oh, wait a sec.
Yeah.
I've got just about to switch over BritBox Ting, and I'm going to episode 2 now. I wish you wouldn't do that. I wish you would just actually just play out. I mean, yeah, I like the fact that it's giving me the option to skip and stuff like that. That's great. It's just it's nice to actually just watch things through.
Well, yeah, that sort of like 2 minutes of credits front and back gives us a chance to destroy it, talk about it.
Yeah, but yeah, like we're gonna review this model work here. It's a little bit wobbly. I like the designs though. I like the fact that the cargo ship's got these sort of like big clamp-in arms on the front of it to lock onto stuff, like cranes.
I'll tell you what that flight deck reminds me of, or the bridge, whatever you want
Yeah,
to call it. That all kind of alien universe feel about it, like a space lorry.
yeah.
The space
It's
truckers.
just meant to be this control room. There's no big view screen. There's no big, you know, it's just doing everything on instruments. There's no need for these giant screens. You've got each screen for each chair.
Yeah, they built a lot of stuff for this episode,
Oh,
didn't they?
it's just the start of it. You have not we nowhere near. I mean, I like the way those doors open. It's everything. They put a lot of thought into this. Something to ponder. Best model work in BBC sci-fi from the 70s and 80s. Best model work. Best model work.
BBC sci-fi. Oh,
Right. Um. Hmm. That's a good question. Best model work. Yeah, I'm pretty smitten with the design of that transporter ship. It's unconventional. It's not just a rocket. I mean, if we talk
I'm still considering the best
right,
best
if we
model
talk
work.
in
Yeah.
the best model work for Doctor Who, it's the opening to Trial of the Time Lord. You've got that big motion control rig pass of the space station, and it looks up, and the TARDIS gets pulled down into that beam of light, and gets pulled into the space station. When the camera goes up, goes down, it's like a roller coaster.
Yeah, that is
It's
good.
a cracking. It's one of the best.
I'm trying to think of all the things of. What was Space 1999? Was that on ITV or
Oh,
BBC?
that was that's
'Cause
independent.
that had
That
some
is.
really good model
That was
work in it.
ATV, wasn't it?
Yeah, so that was the other channel.
So yeah,
Good model work, regardless.
yeah.
But that's Jerry Anderson for you.
I mean, it was a lot of Martin Bauer and Steve Begg, I think, was on that. Brian Johnson. Um,
Well, Lucosa says 1999 was ITV.
yeah. Well, again, it would have been. So yeah. Yeah, it was originally ITV. That's why. Ah, yeah, of course, because a couple of years ago they were going to bring back a new version called Space 2199, but it never materialised.
Well, I'm quite glad to hear it.
I looked up some of the design work for it. It looked pretty good.
I mean, Space Precinct was pretty good. I mean, that was another Jerry Anderson
Yeah,
show from
again,
the late
I
'80s,
think
wasn't it?
that was early '90s. That was Space Precinct. Terrorhawks, I think was uh,
That might have been ITV as well.
no.
I mean, Captain Scarlet had good model work.
Oh yeah, it was ITV. Yeah.
Don't know. See, when I think of BBC
Yes.
Sci-Fi, you've got the Tomorrow People, the Tripods, Doctor Seven. And yeah, I mean, was there
Ah,
much
Red
more
Dwarf.
than that I'm missing? Yeah, Red Dwarf. That had some good model work in it.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to tell us what your one is then, Lucosa, because
I mean, there's. It depends on what you mean by best model work. Because if you're looking at things like, for example, when they done, we had that episode of Doctor Who whereby they done the destruction of the factory. It's very difficult to tell that that's a model. So, what's best? What are you looking at as best? It's because again, the opening of Trial of a Time Lord is a tough one to beat for spectacle, but for realism, I mean, you look at the one that we watched, the Scorpio landing pad at the Xenon base in Blake 7 Series 4. Oh, the Scorpio was, I mean, that was a Martin Bauer creation, I think. Um, yes, it was. It was Martin Bauer. The Liberator was Martin Bauer as well.
yeah, I should have remembered he was going to say that because he told me about it and sent me a video because I couldn't remember it weeks ago. It does look good
Yeah, no,
though.
no, yeah, absolutely. But again, it depends on where your net is. If you go for realism, or because you look at what we watched a couple of weeks ago with Doctor Who, whereby they had the Force Perspective miniature um, of the entranceway to the cave.
Oh, well, in the Three Doctors,
You
yeah,
know, um,
it's pretty impressive as well.
but also again look at Attack of the Cybermen. We're on the Cybermen planet, and you've got the base over on the hill, and that's Force Perspective miniature as well. So it depends on what you're looking for the model work, really.
Well, going on what he's put there, I would. It looks like he means like, what would you think his most impressive one was? And
Yeah, again, I'd have to go for Trial. The opening of the Trial is spectacular. There's a reason why it's one of the most expensive shots in Doctor Who. So we've just talked over the exposition there. That mind probes don't cause pain if you tell the truth. There. I think we have got a video there though of us doing one of our favourite shots of or model effect shots in Doctor Who. I think that's a separate video for us to do at another time.
yeah,
And this is where I draw issue with some of the storytelling here. Is that the writing here is just writing out of ignorance. It's just no matter what evidence they present it with, they keep shaking their heads at it and saying, no, 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 you are definitely spies. And there's no other writing there to just kind of go, oh, these people are more intelligent than that. It doesn't.
Well, to be fair to the scriptwriters, that's pretty much what politicians do: bury their heads in the sand and say no a
but these are
lot.
supposed to be two really intelligent people at the tops of the profession. And the thing is, so this character now, he has chosen what the truth is. Yeah, the whole rubbing of the comb sound effect is prevalent in this.
Where is that place?
I have no idea. It's a lovely location.
Yeah, I recognise that. Probably some housing estate.
I have no idea what it is. I mean, it could be a college, it could be for all we know, a water treatment plant. But I like the fact that it's not shiny and brand new. I like the fact that it looks sci-fi, but it's actually got a bit of weather into it. And that
Yeah.
this camera work to shoot up through it like that is lovely. It didn't work again. Imagine that.
Blimey. You know why it is, don't you? It's because he didn't do the Superman pose with it. If he'd have done the Superman pose with it, that door would have flown off its hinges. He squashed the guard standing behind it. They could have run down the corridor, got in the TARDIS that the sonic screwdriver would have summoned,
Yep.
flown off, and then it would have been the next episode with the rubber flog with a flying head. Obviously, I'm just guessing.
So we're on like the 6th or 7th set now, and they just keep turning them out.
Admittedly, that does look like Pebble Mill at 1.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking the same thing. It may well have.
Not that it's bad, because it works, because it fits in with, if it was, that fits in with the aesthetic.
I mean, look at this stage in here. I think this is incredibly well filmed. Better than most people give it credit for. Look at the stage in here. Both of them are in shot. He sat down when he was unsure. And he's more sure, so he's standing up. Look at this blocking. Fantastic.
That is good.
See, he's sitting down, he's lower down, he's conceding. It's really good. It's really good. like one above the other one. He's winning the argument, so he's sitting down. It's really, honestly. And you'll notice they do that a lot in this. Back to the scratching of the comb. I think it's a wonderful location. Maybe worth looking up where this was shot. I'm going to make a note of that.
That guy playing the old man part really does look the
Yeah.
part, though, doesn't
And
he?
again,
He's really got the look on his
see,
face.
he again is in a position of power. So he's standing up, she's sitting down. The staging on this is brilliant. She's trying to be authoritative about this. He would have been a good live action Captain Black, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he would have done. I didn't think Alan Titchmarsh was that bad that you had to have the Draconians bring into the mill.
See, look this now. It's very, very simple. They're trying to be intimidated, so they've got him sat down and they're lurching over him.
Yeah.
It's really, honestly, it's simple, triangular filming stuff, but so effective. I have no idea what that prop is on the desk either. I can't make it out. It's some loose
Well,
shit.
that kind of metallic thing.
Yeah.
This just looks like what they call modern art, I suppose.
It could be it could be a 70s desk tidy for all I know. Yeah, it's an interesting location.
Well, that's a right plot thickener, that sound.
Yeah. I don't know what I would do with the Ogrons in a modern Who.
Well, they kind of look a bit like the gorillas from Planet of the Apes, don't they? In their dress and their mannerisms.
Um.
Not that that's something you could do with them. I was
Yeah.
just me thinking out loud.
I mean, I think their position has kind of been overtaken now by the Jadoon. Because I think that's where they would be. I think that's what sort of position the Ogrons would be in now these days. That they would be in line sort of with. Maybe if you made them like the antithesis of the Jadoon.
What the Jadone?
Yeah. Exactly. No, but I mean, like, if the Jadoon are sort of space police, then these would be sort of space gangsters. I think that's where it would have to lie uh, with the Ogrons. But who do you have?
So you're kind of saying space cops and
Yeah,
robbers.
I mean that's it. You got to make them thugs, right? You got to make them heavies. Oh, here we go. Start of episode what is it, 3?
Yeah.
Flying through it, flying through it.
Well, I've got as far as John Pertwee's
Yes,
face. Yep.
Frontier in space, 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 space.
Gotta say that was a superb zoom out, that camera
Hmm?
shot.
The
I might watch that again later.
the fact that it's doing a drift as well. I gotta say, it's incredibly intensive. The way that they shot this. There's very little wrong with the way it's edited. I would have changed that screen though. That screen looks terrible.
Yeah, that's not the best bit of CSO, is it?
Again, I wouldn't have. I would have made that the entire wall. I just.
This is definitely a exchange I've seen in a lot of science fiction programs. Most recently, in one of the middle seasons of The Expanse,
Mhm.
it was the same thing going on.
Yeah.
It's really good when they do that. When they have like the military commanders like, oh, I want to start a war, and you got someone like in a presidential position saying, no, I don't want to be responsible,
The
and then batting it backwards
yeah.
and
But
forwards.
the problem is the fact that there's not enough of even if they accept the fact or they believe that the Doctor and Joe are agents, they're not doing enough to investigate the other possibilities. Like it only needs one line to from her to say, we have deployed other people to investigate your story, and it gives them more credibility then. See, he's convinced, so I'm okay with that. I'm okay with him being, but her, she needs to be a bit more smart. She's supposed to be the world leader, so she needs to have alternatives at hand as well. And they haven't written it quite deep enough for her. Goes up to 11.
That grin looked a lot like Tom Baker in that close up, didn't it?
And that's part of the issue to the right in here is the fact that yeah, you can say that, but really you're trying to convince the audience that the two people who are supposed to be in charge are intelligent people, so they should be at least one of them should be considering alternatives. It's okay for the general to be single-minded because he's supposed to be a single-minded general. That's fine. He's convinced that they are traitors and therefore that's fine. but the president, who's supposed to be on the fence here, should be willing to consider other options. There are plenty of alternatives. There are loads of alternatives. I mean, where's the investigation in case they're telling the truth? There's no investigation to the entire incident. Introducing set number what? 12? 13? Again, they spared no expense. I mean, they literally. And I know they're only geese, but I mean, a whole set of costumes as well. I think there's some good casting for this as well.
Yeah.
Nice little bit of sound design going on there, even when the doors are opening and closing off camera. Kirby's got some swag to him, hasn't he?
Oh yeah.
There he is.
Inevitable.
Yeah.
I would imagine the thing with the government not listening to them
Yes.
is kind of a. You think about when this was made. I mean, it was all trade unions, and and the government didn't listen. I think it's probably a play on the time
I mean,
well as
yeah,
a plot
yes.
device to move the story forward.
Yeah, I get that, but it's you've got to think of the characters. Like basically, what I'm saying is the fact that if you've got a couple of characters in a situation here, they have to show alternate sides of the argument. Otherwise, they're just in total agreement with each other, and the conflict is forced. Like having somebody present the "we need to do this," and the other person just shaking their head going "no, no, no." That's not enough. You need the other person to give you the alternative of that. You need to have an actual discussion, an actual argument, as opposed to just somebody just saying no all the time.
Yeah,
So the fact that you've got the general and the president both in agreement, but one's just you know holding back all the time, it's there's not enough there.
she's going to be pleased to see him, isn't she? In his full General Zod
Yeah,
outfit.
with the death on his chest. Why so serious? Bloody wonderful scene. Wonderful. That back and forth there is just brilliant. Purely because, again, it shows they didn't have to write that in to have get the master in here. But the fact that he managed to explain how the master found out that the doctor was there, it was just a lovely little bit of writing. There you go. I also think it's quite nice as well that, that a lot of the people in this prison are there for speaking out against the government.
Yeah, and that kind of holds with what I was saying about them not believing.
Mm. No,
You know,
I get it.
they're
It's
that kind of government.
yeah, but I get it. But again, it's not very good narratively. It's okay to have that in mind, but you could always argue that they were always sent there by General Williams. Like maybe he was protect. You could always write in that maybe he was protecting the president because they've got a history.
Oh dear.
Yes, bit of a situation. Again, good looking sets, good looking props. It's really well done production wise.
That escape plan hasn't gone well, has it?
Not really, no. Yeah, right, when I'm talking about the dynamic of not believing these people and having the back and forth, the General Williams character really is the fall guy here for this. And to give you a better example of it, uh, think of Ghostbusters. You know the scene in the mayor's office in Ghostbusters, and you could use almost somebody like the Walter Peck character, but you've also got you know the guy who's always trying to protect the mayor. He's like, oh, I've been looking out for your interests, and it's like, the city's going to hell. Well, that's what General Williams should be. The president needs to be independent of that, and I think that's a better example of what it's the same dynamic, exactly the same dynamic, but I think that it does it better because it has that to the characters. Um,
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but I'm looking at it as a futuristic paranoid
yeah,
society.
absolutely, but you still need to have just that dynamic there for the back and forth of the drama. Otherwise, the drama's pretty one sided and pretty weak. It's very light on it, and you're gonna see when this comes around a little bit later on. I think about episode 5, episode 6. It wraps pretty quick because of it, and I think that they could have done something a little bit different.
Whereabouts are you? Because I'm still at the beginning of episode 4.
Oh, I am, well, 1 minute 12 in. John's just banging on the door. Just put it down on the floor. He's no. I didn't even think about it. It just let it roll over. I got a hand turning the knob. What I'm getting is this story provided the entire background for Blake Seven. Oh, season 1 of Blake Seven is probably my favourite sci-fi writing of all time. 26th century paper. I like this moment here. I mean, there's a touch of blackmail there.
A touch.
Yeah. I mean, it's great. It shows how unscrupulous he can be. And it's good that the master gets, because the warden's being cruel, but the master's being more cruel. He's got one over on him. See, he's going over again. It's so good. Like he doesn't have a reason to go with him. He doesn't. Oh yeah, here it is. Here's the reason.
Yeah. So is that the same set from earlier with a lick of paint?
I think it's a redress. But again, it's done so well.
It's done well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a swap round, a little bit of a repaint.
Yeah, but the look of it gives it the same time period. You can instantly see it's in the same space.
Exactly. That's what I like with this is the consistency. See that things like that frame in there. They're stuck in the cell. The camera's shooting up past him. He's standing up on the rostra, standing above him. He's in a command position. They do it throughout this. It's brilliantly done. Again, I think this is a
Yeah, I mean, I can overlook a lot of the shortcomings with that script that we were talking about with everything else. I mean, that to me is just a plot device that wasn't brilliant, but it did the job.
yeah. Again, this is a redress of the original pilot set as well. It's been slightly modified.
Yeah, but again, it fits into the aesthetic of the time period.
Yeah, but again, it's making the technology, or it's putting all the technology on the same level. But it looks good. I mean, I really do. There's very little I would do to that set if I was gonna. Maybe there's some lighting I would do extra, just to put some practicals on the set, but there's not a whole hell of a lot. Maybe a bit of extra detail on the walls, but very little.
You do like a Greeble, don't you?
It's yeah. I mean, there are little things that they could do. I mean, modern wise, yeah, you could do a lot of backlit graphics and things like that.
Well, that's just showing what I've learnt, mate. I never knew they were called Greebles until I started watching your My Model update.
But look at this the backlighting on through those panels there. It's so simple, but it makes it so effective.
That camera tracking's pretty good as well.
Again, it's pushing in to see what the important thing. See, the man's got humour to him. He's got wit.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a nice little reminder as well as the fact that she is unit. I don't know if this was scripted or this is just Katie Manning, because I do know Katie Manning can ramble. Again, you know, this model works a little bit ditzy, but it's not horrendous.
No, that would look better if it was flying on flat rather than
Yeah,
coming across at an angle.
maybe sort of towards camera a bit more. Instead of doing this. I mean, I don't know who designed those doors, but I really like them.
Yeah, they couldn't they?
The fact that they're three-quarter hinged, and they look hefty. They do look like they've got a bit of bulk to them.
I mean, I don't want to give away the ending, but that badge does look very reminiscent of something.
Again, this is what's good with some of the set dressings. There's stuff put in that you know. I just want to remind you. Last week we watched Carnival of Monsters. This week they built the exterior of a spaceship.
just not the Doctor's day, is it?
I mean, he has escaped. Technically, part of his plan has gone exactly according to what he planned.
Get up a bit earlier than that to get
Yeah.
get him to believe that sort of thing.
This must have been a fair size set. It's a shame you can see the wires from time to time.
Oh, that's all right. I mean, I didn't have any way of blocking them out as much then, did
No.
they?
I mean, they could have powder puffed them and shot them from the right side. That would have been a big help. Um,
I don't think they stood out that much, to be
no.
honest. I mean, all right, they might do if they haven't painted them out on the Blu-ray edition. They might stand out a bit more,
Yeah.
but
But yeah, if they powder puffed the wires and lit them from the other side, you wouldn't have seen them. Rather an inconvenient moment to cut away, I think. But I'll let it go. I wouldn't have done that shot. I either that model shot there. Mm, I think they could have done a bang up job if they brought back the Draconians. The makeup for that they could do today.
Oh, I think you'll find they can do that because they've got the guns. So they're not going to smash a wall, are they, to find a mural of William Hartnell underneath it?
Nice, a little more cunning than that. Set number 23.
Yeah, you're right. I don't think I've seen so many sets in a classic Who episode before. That was a strange cliffhanger.
It was. I don't think I wouldn't even class that as a cliffhanger. But how you enjoyed it so
Yeah.
far?
Oh, I think it's great.
It looks good as well.
Let me know when we're starting the next episode this
Yeah,
time.
I've got a bit of a countdown going on. Yeah. I'm going to score 3, 2, 1. Right, down Zach. BritBox. Ting. Presented by BBC and.
I've got that weird synthesized music again, which
Oh,
means Lucosa probably has as well.
yeah. Man, that is bad. That music's terrible. It was interesting that they tried something different, but it's just not. It's just not good. It's like when they done the bad Colin Baker one.
What did you have? The normal
I had
music?
the normal, yeah, the traditional. Of course, it says, yeah, I have that awful version of the theme music. Yeah.
Well, that's a coincidence. So I don't know if this is going to make this episode any different to the one that's on BritBox, because the one lasts 5 minutes longer and completely different.
I love the fact that he keeps getting slapped. I just love it. It's just, every time his confidence steps up, he gets pushed back down. Now leave me while I sit on this toilet. It doesn't look much like a throne. Set 27. Totally
I'm still
differently
in.
styled.
I'm still in the throne room.
Yes.
I'm assuming
Yeah,
you
yeah,
are
yeah.
as well.
How dare you address the Emperor in a manner. The 15th Emperor? But I like the fact that this set is completely differently styled to the other sets.
Yeah, with good reason.
Yeah. But I mean, it just goes to show the amount of effort that they've put into it. Because this could have been any set. But the fact that they've tied it in with the look of the Draconians, it makes all the difference. They could have done something a little bit better with that mask there. It was a little bit movie as he was talking. You can see they're having fun with us. Fair play. John Pertwee's kicked the piss out of some aliens. Nope, I still see an Earthman destroy him. No, that was fortunate. This is a brilliant idea, though. I mean, that's one hell of a put down. I think you'll find fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. Yeah, there's a lot of dashing around in this.
He's just like when Joe said "Thank you, Your Majesty." I expect they go like that
Yeah.
afterwards to the other bloke.
Just sticking the tongue out would have worked. blinky light on the screen. There's a sound of just absolute like the ineptitude that he's got to put up with. We're on a course for Earth. Of course we are. We're following him. God, I love the lighting in this. It's absolutely brilliant. All the little blinky lights in the background pop. All these people got shadows on their faces that are giving them really three-dimensional shapes to them. I'm just wondering how rubbish this makeup would have looked if this had been in flat light, in regular who studio lighting. This is a good little bit of continuity as well. If you look in the console room where the Doctor's piloting the ship, the book that the Master was reading is on the console. It's a nice little touch. It's small little things like that that make that make this little attention to detail.
Yeah.
Again, when it's done well, it's done really well. They haven't mastered shaky cam yet. It's more wobble cam.
That's a seasick cam,
Yeah.
that is. Rare moment of seeing the Doctor firing a gun. Well, sometimes he hasn't got a choice.
Yeah, it's a stun. You know, it's not set to kill, as far as I'm aware. again, this is supposed to be decompression. They should have turned the fan on. I mean, even the bed sheets aren't ruffling. I'd have
Perhaps
been
only,
putting.
perhaps only the top half's open.
I mean, I would be putting dry ice in there and blasting it through. See, there's another model now. I mean, we'll be like 5 models deep, 28 sets in, and there's still more. I mean, again, it just makes the sort of the so-called heroes of this feel a bit more incompetent. Yeah, you're racist. You can't tell them apart. I think there were some cuts in the BritBox version. Sounds like there's a 2 to 3 minute difference between it and the version I'm watching. Huh. I so, yeah. What I'm at was 18 minutes and 50.
Well, I'm at about the same time, but I kind of zipped when I realised I was behind.
Hmm. Well, I'm in the president's office with General Williams and the Draconians and the Doctor.
Yeah, so am I now.
You see, and this is my issue with the writing there, is the fact that this guy was so single-minded, but now he's been sort of proven wrong. He's kind of, oh no, I'm gonna do exactly what you're asking, whereas he shouldn't. I that's not how I would have written him. I'm at the scene, by the way, just in case you're wondering, I'm at the scene whereby the Master is escorting Joe through a quarry and they're about to go inside his base.
Yeah, I'm on the quarry as well because I watched some of it in at at 1.25 times speed to catch up with you. Well, what we'll do is when we get to the end of this
Yeah.
episode, we'll pause. We'll let Luke Oza catch up. Then we'll
Yeah.
watch part 6.
Now watch this moment here now. I can't tell if this was intentional or not. But there's this moment between the Master and Joe here. I don't know whether or not the lighting it was they were trying to do it. Watch this now, right? Boom, look at that. That's fantastic. He just literally just steps into darkness. Boom, that's me out. That's the end credits right there. Doctor Who, John Pertwee. The Master, Roger Delgado. Joe Grant, Katie Manning. Prisoners of Earth, Vera Fuzak. General Williams, Michael Hawkins. Draconian Emperor, John Woodnut. What a name. Draconian Prince, Peter Birrell.
Well, Lucas, we're glad to know that part 6, because I'm right at the beginning of it, is back to the normal music, so we should all match up on that. So
three,
tell us
two,
when
one.
tell us when you've caught up, Chris, or not.
Right. BritBox, Ting. Presented by BBC and. Right, so we've got this story now. This is part 6, and isn't the end. Okay? I'm just letting you know right now, this is not the end of this story. It's just,
No, it joins up with the next story,
but
doesn't it?
it's a bit rushed. Given that's a 6-parter, there's no need to don't forget.
Lucas is about 2 minutes behind us.
Yeah. The other thing to remember as well is that Lucas is going to be 20 seconds behind the live stream as well, because they automatically add 20 seconds to the live stream time in as well. So. Yeah, 1 minute into episode 6 now. We're at 1 minute 40. I'm afraid I must ask you to be my guest for a little longer. Show Miss Grant to a room, will you? Yeah, because of the way this episode's going to wrap up, there is something that I would have done with General Williams. I'll talk about that after we've finished watching this. It's a shovel, not a spoon. Now, my problem with her plan was as good as it is, she'd had a much quicker way if she'd emptied out the bowl and used the bowl instead of the spoon.
Yep, that is true. That must be set number 29 now then.
Again, because of the way it's been lit, it's making all the sort of the reflections on the set and all these little lights that are popping on and off. And another guest model ship. Did Joe Grant borrow those boots from the Bay City Rollers? They are very hipster boots. They kind of like heeled sort of plimsolls.
Yeah, with an air of the old cons about them. You know, the Converse basketball
Yeah.
shoes.
So again, a bit of a reuse, a bit of a redress.
Well, it works though,
Yeah.
doesn't it?
But again, it must have been a big set. It must have been, like, you think about it, because that set isn't going to be on the stage floor. It's going to be up off the stage floor as well. And you're hanging a person to do this as well.
I mean, you could almost say the wires you can see are is tether to the ship.
You could
You know, there's
you
a.
could say that, but you're wrong.
I mean, yeah, I know I'm wrong, but sometimes you have to suspend it with some of this stuff.
They're just suspending John Pertwee. What do you think of the music of this so far?
I think it's pretty good actually. I think it fits. There's no no strange whimsical stuff going on
Yeah.
unless it's necessary.
I'm wondering what it would have sounded like if it was more orchestral instead of synth, though. Because sometimes they.
Yeah, but then it wouldn't sound like Doctor Who, then, would it?
It's just that this sound effect that they got going on. I'm just wondering what that would sound like, being strummed out on a violin.
Yeah, it'd sound good, but
Yeah.
you know, 70s sci-fi meant synths because synthesizers were still fairly new, weren't they?
Yeah.
So space age sounding. She'll have to change her name to Dufresne now, wouldn't she?
Again, they remember that she is into escapology.
Yeah.
It's it's these good little things. And I do think that Joe is a very good foil for John Pertwee's Doctor.
She is when she's written
Yes.
well, like she has been in this episode. But then you could say the same for a lot of assistants,
Oh,
stroke companions for that.
I would never. I think like Mel is probably one of the worst written for.
Yeah, it would have been good if she was written well.
Yeah, but I mean, like they totally forgot she's supposed to be like this computer expert, and they never explored it at all.
No, they didn't. And I think the other unfortunate thing about Mel was um, Bonnie Langford was really typecast in the type of role she'd been in
Yeah,
before, which is unfair because the woman can act.
yeah. Well, I mean, like, I would bring her back just to give her a swan song, just to give her something with actual genuine meat on the bone. Like people always want to bring back the favorites, but bring back the ones that need help. Did you? Oh, sorry, I've already read that. If Melby came back for an episode, wouldn't they have to bring back Sybil and Glitz as well? I mean, not really, because they could have gone their separate ways.
No.
They could have gone their separate ways easily enough,
Yeah, no, he'd already died.
Or he's in prison. I mean, I don't have any problems with Sybil and Glitz essentially, because he's a bit of a just your sort of Del Boy type character. I mean, done right. Sybil and Glitz could be a very roguish type character. I mean, he's sort of the Jack Harkness of his time.
Yeah, that flame and smoke looks good because on it's not on a miniature. They've
Yeah.
actually put that on the full size set.
Quarry of Infinite Planets. Yeah, so there's a bit of an unusual moment in this right now. They kind of introduced this new element to this, but then they don't actually follow through with it. And again, there's no point in it being in this episode. To be fair, and that's pretty much it. That's pretty much everything that they've introduced, and just no, you never see that again.
Do you not never see
No,
it
you
again?
don't see it again ever.
Oh, that's poor. I'm alright. It did look like a big selection of testicles, but
I know. More Putney's props. This must have been a great moment as well.
yeah.
To have the master with the Daleks. because Pertwee's props.
Why not?
Just give him something to do. Just give him some business for him to do. It would have been shocking if that Ogre really feared his mother.
Yeah. Or jellyfish or
Yeah.
something.
Now, if you look over Delgado's left shoulder, you can actually see the shadows where the Ogre was actually standing round the corner. You can actually see him waiting for his mark. It's a little bit of a small gaff, but it looks like an exploded haggis.
Well, that's not what I was going to say, but yours is more child friendly.
Yeah, Moria. Might not be able to see it there, but actually the outside of those doors there are painted blue.
Yeah, I saw it.
And that's the end of that. That was the end of Frontier in Space. Rushed ending.
But like you said, it's not the end. Although I am personally wondering how they're going to make up for the lack of Roger Delgado in the next
Yeah.
one. But I'm sure I'll find out next
Yeah,
week.
it's brilliant. Planet of the Daleks is a brilliant thing. You don't need Delgado there, but it is the end is just rushed. It's so rushed. They could have taken a bit more time. They didn't have to have so many shots walking through the quarry. They could have cut that out of it because there's a beat whereby the the Doctor turns on the box. There's a huge kerfuffle, and then it's just gone. It's dead silent, and he's just laying on the floor. And it's like that's a bit confusing. I'm not sure what went on there. But anyway, what do you think of that, Chris?
I thought that was brilliant, actually.
Yeah. It's one of the best production values for Doctor Who. It's
Oh, without a doubt.
it's unbelievable the amount of sets they use, the locations they use, the choice of lighting, the choice of direction is great for the most part. The casting is good. It's you get these little moments whereby you get to follow the thread of the story, where the Doctor starts off being mistaken for the Draconians, and then you get that power play back and forth. The whole bit whereby you get this slight misadventure where they end up on the moon. This is a proper six-parter. This is a proper six-parter story, and it doesn't slow down. So the end of the episode for me is the worst thing about it. The part 6 is probably the weakest episode. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
If I didn't know that it was carrying on, I might have thought, well, that ended a bit strange. But because I know that it's effectively a 12-part story, I don't mind so much. But if I'd have seen it back then, not knowing what was coming next, I would have been, hang on a minute, what's going on here? They really sort of
try to view it through the eyes of somebody watching it for the first time. Of somebody not knowing that this is going to be part of an ongoing story. This was the wrap for 6 parts. I mean, they should have done. This is why I think the last episode should have been done a little differently, paced a little differently, just because I would have moved things further into the episode and then had the tease on the end. There's stuff they could have cut just to tighten it up a little bit. But I mean I love this story. I love it. What do you think of? I mean, going into now into the episode. What do you think of the characterizations for people like the President, General Williams, the Draconian Prince? What do you think of that dynamic? The way that these characters are operating, given that they sort of versing each other.
I think I'm a bit softer on the way they did it than you are when you were saying about like there's always alternatives and that. I was coming at it from a point where this wasn't something that just happened. The seeds of distrust have been sort of like have been sown for what seemed like quite a number of months before this, with the different attacks on the ships, and then and the Draconians and the humans being played against each other by the Master and the Daleks and what have you. So I looking at it from that point of view, I can see why they'd be as they were, because it's not a new thing that's just happened. It's something they've been putting up with. So there's a lot of distrust there.
I mean, they did mention early on that there had been a previous war with Draconia, so that was actually factored into the story as well. So that can play off on the whole fear. It's kind of like America Russia fear, Cold War type deal. That sort of scenario. My whole thing, really, to be honest with you, how I would have handled this slightly differently is that I would have actually have made General Williams the traitor.
That would have been a nice twist.
I would have actually doubled down on that, particularly when he gets exposed as being the person that attacked the Draconian ship to begin with. When they have that scene in the President's office whereby he's talking to the President and the Draconian Prince confronts him and says, "Look, you attacked an unarmed Draconian ship." there's other things going on there, and to me it would be like, actually, what if he actually was the traitor and actually was the person that instigated it because he was working for the other side, and but then again, you know, what if he wasn't, working for the Draconians at all? What if he was actually planted there by the Master? I think that would have worked a little bit better, because I don't like the idea of the Draconians being vilified. I actually
Yeah.
like the idea that the Draconians were actually exactly what they were claiming to be, and both being a victim of the situation. So I think maybe that's how I would have handled it, was to have him be a traitor to both, um, and actually be a plant there for the Master. Um, I mean, obviously, like, not to gush too much over this, but the direction in this was absolutely fantastic. I
Oh
can't
yeah.
say enough about the not just the blocking but the staging, where the fact that we get these brilliant moves with the camera, whereby in particular there's a couple of good moments. One is whereby Joe and the Doctor are in a cell, and the camera does this long pan from left to right and then zooms in on his hands, and you can see him doing this behind his back, whereby he's cutting through the bar. That's a nice little camera moment, for the blocking, the staging of that, I should say, but the blocking whereby they were having these power plays between people, and the actors themselves had blocked this out, whereby they were changing moments, and the camera work was keeping them framed. I thought it was wonderful stuff. It's stuff you don't see normally. What you see is your typical triangular shooting, whereby you've got one master camera doing the wide angle, and then one pointing at A, one pointing at B. And that's your typical setup. What they did with this was use a lot, and I mean a lot, of mid to wide, and just have the actors just changing positions, have the camera following them around. I thought it was excellently done. Like, excellent. You don't see that. You hardly see. You sometimes see that in modern productions now. But it's stuff like this that would have sown the seeds for people today to do. It's stuff that, this is the sort of thing that I look for when I'm looking at sort of cinematography, and seeing why you would shoot it this particular way. Like, another good example of that is, um, to make people look like they were isolated, even though they were in a busy sort of, or not busy, but a busy looking environment. When the Ogrons attacked them as they were being escorted through the the base, they deliberately put the camera right up high and shot straight down at the compound. So it made them look like they were basically, you know, at a vantage point. And
Yeah.
it was a lovely little moment, because if you think about earlier on, when they initially done that, the camera was on the ground with them, and it was almost like sort of in the action. Um, so
I'll tell you what, you were absolutely spot on about the lighting in that. The lighting was superb.
yeah, yeah. There's very little I would have done differently for the lighting. But again, the sets were just constantly, and just one after the other. I don't know where they got them from. I don't know who they had to bribe to get them. Um, there were certain things that were being repainted and reused, which is understandable. But they done it so well that I don't think, like, you probably didn't notice that the Draconian prince's desk in the embassy was the same one as the warden's desk on the moon. It was the same desk, just repainted, uh, because of how effective they shot that desk from one side, and then they shot it from another side, but they just repainted it. It's a simple switch, but it works.
Yeah, it does work. It's the same as the original ship that Joe and the Doctor
Yeah,
started on, and when it was the Master's prison ship. You could tell it was the same sets, but they'd repainted the yellow handrails
yeah,
black and they'd put
They
more
rejig the
more
walls as
sort of
well.
like grey in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just had a little bit of a move around, but it was the same panels just set up differently, and I only really noticed that because I was looking for it. If I'd have just been watching that without casting a critical eye on it, I would maybe not have noticed that it was the exact same things jostled around because they did it in such a believable
Yeah,
way.
and it goes to show how well you can do with how little that you have when you've got the right sort of people behind the camera and the right commitment from the people blocking the scenes, because this was much more. I would say this was a because it's a six-parter. You can almost feel a six-parter, whereby you can feel sort of the time passing. Whereas with this, I think that they were aware that it was a six-parter, so they increased the pace every now and again. That they would have these
Yeah,
little action scenes and little fight scenes. Like I said, you had John Pertwee doing some parkour in this, and actually doing some fight scenes. You had the shoot 'em outs back and forth. Um, there's a lot of, and for an episode that started off being captured to being recaptured to being recaptured to being recaptured and having this back and forth, that can get tiresome quickly. But what was good with this was the fact that, yeah, you were having them be captured by each force, back and forth, but the movement was that actually it was what the Doctor was working out. It was every time. It wasn't the fact that each side was getting information. The Doctor was getting information, and
yeah,
that's what was key to this story, was the fact that it wasn't about the other sides. The story is that about the other sides, about these two factions going head to head and butting heads. But actually, what was brilliant about this was the fact that it was the Doctor working it out. It was even though he was being interrogated by General Williams in that scene, those bits of information that he got helped piece together what the hell was going on. And when the Master shows up as well, that's when sort of things started to go, oh, okay, there's a bigger plot here than I was first aware of. I kind of pieced it together, but now I know. And this is what I was saying about what they did wrong. One of the things they did wrong with Carnival of Monsters was the fact that the Doctor pieced that together too soon, and they blew the surprise in Carnival of Monsters, kind of in the first episode,
yeah,
whereby they were inside the museum type thing. Whereas in this, they didn't blow the Daleks for this at all until like episode 6. Like, there were keys there. I mean, if you look at the Ogron ship, there are Dalek domes all over the ship, all over the work panels. The design of the logo is very Dalek looking design. Um, so you've got all that factored in. But they still, it was just hinted at, right the way throughout. And then, again, the biggest regret I've got for this episode is episode 6. Um, I think episode 6 should have been done a little differently. But that's my big complaint. What would you say is the worst thing about this episode so far that you could think of?
the worst
Yeah,
thing
and it
about
could
it.
be anything. It doesn't have to be story wise. It doesn't have to be. It could be whatever you thought was.
The final 10 minutes of the last episode seemed a bit rushed and jumbly compared to all the great setups
Yeah.
beforehand. But like I said, going into the next story, that won't matter so much. But watching it as a standalone, it was very rushed at the end, and that was probably the worst bit. All of a sudden, they decided they was going to do this, and then they got to the TARDIS, and then the Master turned up. There was a scuffle. The Doctor fell over, and then he woke up. All of a sudden, everyone had gone apart from Joe. They got in the TARDIS and buggered off, and it just seemed to be very bang, 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 bang,
Yeah.
bang done.
And
But yeah, that would be the worst bit for me. About the last 5 to 10 minutes.
but we do get an outstanding performance from Delgado in this as well.
Oh yeah,
I mean, just a lot of swagger and a lot of personality, and it's such a shame. Um, that's we were lucky to get what we got. I think.
yeah. I mean, for someone to die in a car crash when he, going over a ravine in Turkey, and he wasn't even driving; it was a chauffeur. I mean, it is,
Yeah.
it's something. He wasn't ill. It was something beyond his control. I mean, an accident is an accident. That's the nature of them. But yeah, it is. It's always sad when something like that happens. When he had, I mean, I don't know how old he was when he died. I mean, was he 50,
Yeah.
something like that?
Yeah.
He could have had another 40 to 50 years in front of him. I suppose you can't really dwell on that. And you're right, we're lucky to get what we got from
The
him.
fact
And
that it's 50 years later and we're still saying, what we're saying about him, we still been able to have this discussion and talking about his performance and the mark he left on the show, not just on the character but
yeah,
on the show. Um, yeah, and of course, it just put the biggest shame about the final scene was the master just vanished, and that was the last we ever saw of Delgado. Yeah, I mean that end is just a jumble. But they do this
although the one thing I will say is that's what the master always does. He
steps up.
just vanishes. So I mean, it's kind of it's sad that that was the last we saw of
Mm,
him, but that's what the master would do.
yeah,
It's all gone wrong. I'm out of here.
I mean it is a shame, but I again I don't think anybody. There's a couple of people in Doctor Who history that stand out. I think as making a mark on the show. I think Nicholas Courtney would be one, but Delgado has to be the other one. I mean, you know, it's an indelible mark. That he's a standard setter, and not just for villains, mind, or for playing the master, but as a just as a charismatic actor. Um, y- I think that he brought a lot, and his relationship with John Pertwee, um, it shows. It shows the relationship that they had together. But I mean, I'm sure Katie Manning as well would have been absolutely mortified by what happened at the time. Um,
Oh yeah.
so just a couple of things of trivia as well. Let's go over this. So the Ogron's role in this story was originally going to be the Cyberman, which would have been interesting.
Yeah, that might have been a bit too much pie, but
Yeah,
yeah.
that would have been interesting. But it's particularly it would have been the first time the Cybermen and the Daleks would have been in the same story, as together. So that
When was the first time the Daleks and the Cybermen appeared in the same story?
pardon?
So when was the first time that the Daleks and the Cybermen appeared in the same
I mean,
story?
I want to say David Tennant.
Yeah, but no, wrong.
No,
Ah,
not together. I mean, I'm
Christopher Eccleston in the episode Dalek. There was a Cyberman head in the
yeah,
museum and a Dalek.
but they didn't.
Yeah,
They didn't.
stop it.
Yeah.
It's just the way
They were in the
it
same
was.
story, but they were not in the same scene. Five Doctors, no,
No.
I don't think the Cybermen were in the same scenes as the Daleks, were they?
Oh, you said episode. If we're going about scenes,
They never,
then yeah,
the
that
Daleks
would have
never
been.
had a scene with the Cybermen. The only time the Daleks had a scene with the Cybermen, I'm sure, is David Tennant. I would have to check that because again I'm going through memory, but I'm pretty sure they never had a scene. I've got a feeling that was the first moment in Doctor Who history. I could be wrong. Um,
I only said what I said because I thought it was
yeah.
funny. Do continue.
So the Draconians were originally named Andromedans. Um,
I know the lighting helped, but their makeup, apart from the bloke with the moving mask, that was pretty consistent and decent throughout.
again, we're talking about the production value of this story in general is at a very high standard, Because it says not in the same scene, but in the same episode. Yeah. Um, yeah. The president of Earth was originally a man. Well, sex change. Um,
Jo splits her trousers running to escape the Ogrons in episode
mhm.
3.
Yeah.
And she has tights that change colour and disappear.
Well, I mean, Katie Mann's disappearing tights is a whole other story.
I'm just looking at the production errors.
So it says here that reviewers observed that the precipitating incident in the Earth Draconian War, as depicted in this story, is very similar to the beginning of the Earth Minbari War in Babylon 5. Both space wars begin because an Earth vessel misunderstands the significance of the alien ship's open gun ports and fires on the ship based on the misunderstanding. Now, that's kind of interesting because, and this is very interesting, because the guy who was the showrunner on Babylon 5 has actually put his name forward to be the new showrunner for Doctor Who.
What? Michael J. Straczynski?
I am fairly sure. I will check. Hang a sec. I want to check this out.
Do you know if it is MJS? Do you know what his finest moment is thus far in television?
I don't know.
Jason the Wheel
Oh
Warriors.
yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'm just checking here to see if.
At least that's an actual science fiction writer.
Yeah. I've got to find. Nope. I'm gonna get this because I want to make sure that I've got it right. I'm fairly certain. Go here.
Well, it depends how you know hobbled he is by the BBC, really. But if it is Michael J. Straczynski gets the gig, he's a proper sci-fi writer. But it's down to what they'll let him do. Give him free reign, and you'll get a series that people wouldn't forget for all the right reasons.
So yeah. Yes, it is. He is 67 years old. I just put his name forward.
Straczynski.
Yes. It says here, this is what he put out, and this is his own page. I don't know. This is him on Twitter. I don't know if the BBC would ever consider an American to showrun Doctor Who, but if so, I would be there in a heartbeat. Well, technically, 2 heartbeats since 2 hearts. That's really his own words on Twitter.
Yeah, that'd be something I could get behind, but the BBC would need to give him more free reign, because he will do proper science fiction.
Yeah, but it is interesting that that came up based on the fact that the similarities between this episode and the Earth Minbari War for Babylon 5, and it turns out that actually that's more than a coincidence. That's one hell of a coincidence. So Lucas has put, didn't he also compose Rite of Spring? I don't know.
No, I don't know either.
Sort of, yeah. What other interesting facts might we have there? This episode takes place in the on Earth in 2540. So 26th century. Ooh, this is actually 40 years before Earthshock.
Hmm.
Yeah. Last acting role of James Culliford, who retired because of health reasons after taping the serial.
I just like to say that Luke Hoser is being a twat. He's talking about the orchestra concert work by the Russian composer Igor Stravinsky.
Right. Okay.
he's not just being a twat; he's being a twat on purpose. But he's funny.
Oh dear. Okay. just having a quick look, see if there's anything else really that obviously last appearance of Delgado as the Master. Um, yeah, I think this episode does a lot of good stuff. I think the power play back and forth is pretty good. My only thing is literally I don't like seeing characters being written deliberately written dumb, and it's cheap drama for me. I don't like it. I think that there's other ways that they could have got around it, because um, you've already got the dumb in there being the lackeys being the ogrons. Um, you don't need the people that you're trying to convince being dumb as well. I think that it's one of the things that annoys me about writing, because it's such a cheap, easy thing to write, and just taking that extra little moment to go, actually, let's put this in here. And this is why I would have had General Williams be a traitor, is because the way he kept pressing and pressing and pressing and pressing and pressing for the war, and actually trying to convince the president to attack. I didn't like it where it gets to the end, and it's like, oh no, you were the person that done this a few years ago, which started the Draconian War, and you were wrong. And him just suddenly flipping the coin and going, oh okay, I've turned over a whole new leaf now. That doesn't ring true for the character for me, and I would have preferred him to be to have been killed in the next episode. Just have him just turn out to be actually one of the people working for the Master, and I think it would have worked well for the Master as well to have had this guy. And can you imagine the setup? Like, the Master's just there, and the guy just walks into the room, and it's like you think that he's gonna be there to stop the Master, and he's gonna pick up the gun and point at the Doctor and Joe instead. That would have been one hell of a twist, and it would have put everybody on their ass. So that's something. Would have been better if you didn't need to Google it. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't all know our composers like you. Right. To answer the difference that me and Luke Ozer had with episode 5,
Yes.
says here it's one of only 2 episodes in Doctor Who history to feature the Delaware theme during its opening as well closing credits. The UK broadcast used the same standard theme music, but the version sent to Australia already had the unused arrangement edited in. So we were basically seeing the Australian telly version, but the version that I gave to him that I watched as well had an extra minute in it. So that's where the time went awry on it. So it was literally a minute longer. So that's why we was slightly out on that one.
Yeah.
But that's all right. Then it don't matter.
But now that you've seen this story, can you see the potential in bringing back the Draconians?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because they are such a there's a bit more of a richness there, that they aren't just these cold monster characters, that they've got more of a society. And
the only trouble is, if they brought them back now, they would be brought back for the wrong reasons, because someone would latch on to the fact that one of them said, how dare a woman speak to the Emperor or the King or whatever, and I think they would be brought back for that reason in a story to teach them the error of their ways. Not, you can't write science fiction like that. That's like me saying, that's like me saying I think it's wrong that, I don't know, the Japanese or the Finns eat whales. That's their culture.
yeah.
You can't tell someone their culture's wrong because it's different to yours.
Yes, that's a huge one.
And I think that's the way they do it, and they'd ruin it.
I mean, it would be the perfect to speak to the Emperor would be a perfect one for Jodie Whittaker. It would be though, wouldn't it? I mean, but you're right. you're absolutely right. You're talking about they're writing a show for a UK audience, but they're trying to cast the net as broad as possible, and then ignoring the fact that these other cultures do things differently. And having travelled to different cultures and seeing it firsthand, uh, particularly in the East, um, yeah, you can't, you cannot say that this is outrageous and what have you, if, without giving it a balanced view. And yeah, you're right. You're looking at it from a political point of view of saying, you know, you can always write in the story that this person's right and you should listen to them. That's always a great thing to write in. Um, but to actually impress a point of view is not really something that you should be doing with Doctor Who. You shouldn't be.
No, you should be suggesting, not
Well,
telling.
you should be having a discussion about it. That's what it's for. You should be having a discussion about these issues, not preaching what you think it should be. Um, that's not what. If you're going to entertain people, the idea of doing it through science fiction is the fact that you get to explore other sides and other facets of the situation through this medium, and you don't need to be you know pressing on people and saying this is what you should be doing, this is what it should be. Even when like for example with Joe Grant, with the whole bit of her being in the Emperor's throne room and not being allowed to speak, the fact that the Emperor comes around and says, well, actually we should respect the customs because they visit us, and her suggestion actually does hold merit. So that actually works in favour of the argument. So that to me is how you attack these issues. That's how you get around them. Um,
Talking of performances of women,
mhm,
Katie Manning, the bit where she faced off against the master reciting nursery rhymes to avoid his
yeah.
hypnotism was absolutely brilliant. She played that so
I mean,
well.
anytime she's on screen with Delgado, anytime she's on screen with Delgado, it's good. Even the bit whereby he first walks into the cell. I mean, he's got this little sort of moment with her whereby she she can actually seem fearful of him, but at the same time be forceful with him, and it's such a good power play between the two of them, and but I mean this episode is full of power plays. That's what this episode is. It's one power play after the other, um, and the exchanges. Like there's moments in this whereby people, actors that walk into scenes tend. Now this is how it tends to go. An actor will walk into a scene and stop. They will say what they have to say, and then the action will take over. The other actor, they will stop. The other actor that they've just talked to will walk out of the scene. It's not usual that you will follow an exchange through a scene and so this actor walks in, this actor stays, this actor goes and does something else, whereas and then this actor. This was busy. This was the camera work showing you what you needed to see without a lot of track-in moves, which is again a sign of how well this was staged, because to not have to track and not be doing this with a camera all the time, and to be able to just stick to a master shot instead of jumping in, jumping out, and to constantly. There's a one shot in this whereby one of the Draconians is when they go to interrogate the Doctor, and they've got him in the embassy. And they're sitting down in the chair. That shot there, the camera actually just tracks backwards instead of doing this movement. It literally just sort of comes back, and by just Just by bringing the camera back, it allows them to walk into the shot, put the Doctor in the chair, and allows the Prince to walk around his desk and sit down, and then have the shot of the Prince looking at the Doctor with the three Draconians surrounding him in the chair in one shot, and all they did was track the camera back diagonally. I mean, it's just. I don't know who thought of that, but it's brilliant. Because what you would normally get from that sort of shot is a cat to a cat to a cat to a cat to another cat. No cat in. Not a single cat. Just one shot. And it's just smooth.
Yeah, it was very, very fluid use of the cameras in this. There was one as well where Joe was in the cell and the camera tracked round the edge of the right away around the edge of the cell. It stayed on Joe,
Yeah.
but it followed like if you was walking around the cell, keeping your eyes on her. You know, your eyes would naturally track like they do.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was really there was some really good camera use in this, and I also like some of the like the close up on the face, like in the first episode where the pilot's on the cargo ship,
Yes.
are looking at the displays in front of them, but you've got all the blurred out like bokeh effect
Yeah,
behind
yeah,
them
yeah.
with
Again,
the
depth of
blurring.
field. You don't get depth of field in Doctor Who. You see, they don't use it. They don't use it unless it's for an effect. And this was just photographed so well. There's moments as well.
Why didn't they stick with it?
I know.
They must have seen when they saw this. I mean, imagine if you'd have made that when you saw that go out on television, you'd be like, "Oh yeah, we done a good job there." And it's like, well, why didn't you do it the week after that?
What's
and
amazing
the story
about
after?
it is actually you've watched that episode and you've totally forgotten that it was shot in 4:3.
Yeah,
It,
yeah.
it felt so cinematic to have that on the screen, and because of the way it was blocked, like the amount of times the other scene whereby the Master is standing outside the cell, and they shoot past the Doctor. You see the bars, the Doctor, Joe, and the Master standing up behind, and they got it all in one. Bang, 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 all in
Yeah,
one shot.
that's great.
I mean, it's just wonderful stuff. Compare the cinematography and editing of this with Claws of Axos. No, absolutely not. I mean, when they do it well, they do it well. And this was, you know, this is why I love good cinematography. This is why when it's shot brilliantly well. Again, the president, the power play between General Williams and the president was great because when she was in charge, she was standing up. She was standing up. He was standing up. But when he started to keep on to her and she had no rebuttal, she sat down. He was standing up. And then all she would say was, "No, I'm not going to attack." She just kept doing that. She didn't have a recourse. She didn't have anything else. He was saying, "We must go to war. We must go to war," and all she was doing was defending. So she was sat down in a defensive position. He was standing up over her. She was supposed to be the one in power, but he was the one in a power move. That sort of blocking is very theatrical blocking. So I mean, I would imagine there's a lot of theatrical actors here, but because this, and I would actually put it down to the fact that they have rehearsal time with Classic Who, which they don't do today. And to me, I think there's a massive difference in not just in the performance, but in the blocking and the staging for this, because the blocking by the actors means that the actors get to play theatrically with what they can do, and the staging means that the cameras get to play theatrically with what they can do. And when the two work together, it looks really, really good.
What was the other episode like that? Was it Vengeance on
Yeah,
Varos
Vengeance
that had
on
the
Varos
really good camera
done
work
really
like
good
that
stuff,
as
yeah.
well?
Yeah, Vengeance on Varos was spectacular stuff. Really good stuff. I mean, the sets were dire, but the
Yeah,
camera
the
work.
sets were bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they had also lots of like depth shots
Oh, yeah.
rather than cut,
Yeah.
which was good.
But they done it like with this as well. They're not so successful with the location, particularly with the quarry shots. In this, but the studio stuff was done extremely well. And you can almost forgive them. I even like, because I would hand this over to whoever. I don't know who shot this. I've got to be honest though. I normally would look that up, but what you can bet is whoever shot it also lit it.
I'm right near that list.
I'm gonna have a look. Oh, quick look.
The cameraman was John Tiley.
Yeah, one second.
Film editor was John Bush. Studio lighting Ralph Walton.
Yeah, Ralph Walton. Ralph Watson. Yeah, as Ralph, he's got two. He's got Ralph Walton and Ralph Watson.
Right.
So I would say sort of yeah, a camera and electrical department. So it was Ralph Walton. That's who done this.
He done quite a few as well, actually.
Yeah.
He done. I'll tell you what. I'll give you his credits because it's not that exhaustive a list. For Doctor Who, he done the Web Planet, the Crusade, the Time Meddler, Galaxy 4, Mission to the Unknown, Myth Makers, Doctor and Slorians, Ambassadors of Death, Claws of Axos, Colony in Space, Demons, Frontier in Space, Monster of Peladon, and Planet of the Spiders.
Right. So again, a list there of some of the lighting jobs. I don't know what he did for. So yeah, let's go down the list here. I don't know what he did for Claws of Axos. I'll take a look at that. Just because. What am I looking? So. Yeah, he didn't shoot Claws of Axos. That was a Englander.
Yeah, he done the studio lighting.
He done the lighting for it, which, that's something. But he did actually. If we go back to where we were, I mean, some of the stuff that we talked about actually, the Meddling Monk, Time Meddler. I mean, like, that's another one that where they shoot out in the studio for outside and looks really good. Yeah, Web Planet, Ambassadors of Death. I mean, it's a good episode. It's a good, well shot story.
Apart from the rocket,
Aside from the rocket, and that I'm getting to that. That's almost there. It's not quite yet. I've still got a few things to do to that. Monster of Peladon. Didn't shoot all of it. Oh, that's interesting. But no, I thought that this looked really, really good for the story. The music I thought was good. Interestingly though, what I thought was actually pretty interesting with this. No visual effects. I can't think of a single visual effect in this.
Well, no, really. The only thing was that horrible looking screen that was behind them in the president's office.
The CSO for that, yeah. But aside from just the typical CSO, there was no like. I mean, we got the. Do we get any Dalek blasts? No.
We got a sort of like negative image. I think there was a couple of blasts from the like the hand pistols they had, but nothing.
I don't think
nothing really.
I don't think we had any rays. I think they just
I'm
shot.
Sure,
and we just had explosives.
I'm sure I saw a red ray in there somewhere.
No, I don't think so. I think that it was just literally exploding.
Look at me going back to the end of episode 6. I need to see now.
Yeah, the security men killed by Daleks. Yeah, we had one negative inversion. I don't really call the negatives a special effect shot. Really, it's somebody just bloody dicking with a switch on a crossfader. There were no energy beam effects or anything wobbly in this, was there? You know, when they turned on the box, it was just a sort of out of focus, rack focus, out and in.
No, the only thing there was a bit of smoke out of the master's gun.
Yeah,
I just went and
again,
had a look.
that's a just a you typical
Yeah, it's
special
a
effect.
physical effect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no real visuals. Um, I think we need to talk about the ratings for this because you know, let's be fair. As well as this was shot, it has flaws, and the flaws come in the fact that the model work could have been handled a bit better. They could have taken a bit more time. Um,
They were too busy building sets, mate.
Man, wouldn't they? I mean, you can see where the production went though. The story, it needed a little bit of extra ironing out in places, but it was solid enough. We had the testicle on the hill, which we only ever saw once and never saw. We saw it for approximately 4 seconds.
Or the big Ogron eater.
Yeah, and we didn't see that again.
There was one of the production assistants was in that. I'm sure there was.
Possibly.
I'll have a look. I did read that earlier on.
And the the end episode does let it down because I would have liked a bit more play from General Williams and a little bit more consistency. So, oh, the music was pretty good on this.
Yeah, I thought so.
The music was pretty good. There's a little bit of, it gets a little bit annoying with the bloody comb scraping that they do when they go past from the compound to compound, which is like, that was a little bit overdone. But it's in one of those things whereby it's frustrating. So I'm not. It's hard to judge that because I'm meant to be irritated. So the fact that it irritates me, it kind of does its job. Um, so it's difficult to not like that. Because it is actually doing what it's supposed to be doing. It's a frustrating scene, and it's there to frustrate me. And it does that. So how do you complain about that? Anything else? Would you say there's anything there? I mean, some of the Ogron makeup could have been done a little bit better on the chin. It sometimes you saw a close up at it, and it was a different colour to the that's little things here or there. I'm not going to take too much off that. Where does this sit? As a six-parter, it's a good six-parter. What do you? We haven't talked about this actually. What did you think about the moon scene, the moon episode? As a bit,
But when I was
as a bit of a
when I was
distraction.
in the when I was in the Blue Geese on the
Yeah.
moon planet.
Yeah, because it was an entirely it was a distraction episode. It was an episode by itself. It didn't actually do too much. It introduced the master into the play, but it was a separate story.
Yeah, I didn't mind it. I think it fit into the whole narrative. I'm not sure why everyone was dressed in light sky blue geese in it,
Yeah.
but um, yeah, it was weird, but it fitted in. It was like you had this like proper sort of bad Del Boy character, white geezer, like Twinkle, one of them sort of
Yeah.
blokes. And he kind of just stitched up the professor. Really, it was an odd section, but it kind of it served its purpose. It wasn't like slow and boring,
Yeah.
but I think it was just designed to bring the master in
I mean,
to where the doctor was.
the strange thing about that episode there is that it really, you had some good actors in there, like really good actors.
I agree with what Luke Oza just said, actually.
I thought the Moon episode was filler, but didn't feel like filler. If that makes sense. Yeah, I mean there was stuff in there that was nice to see. Um, I mean what episode was it? Episode 3 was that? That they went to the moon. Um, yeah, Professor Dale. Yeah, Harold Goldblatt. Quite an extensive cast. Jeez, that is an extensive cast for Doctor Who. That's like 40, 40 something people.
There's a lot.
A lot of guards, a lot of Ogron, Lunar Guard, Prison Guard, Earth Guard, Prisoner.
Oh, by the way, I'm not sure who was in the Ogron Eater. All I can read about it is that episode 6 had to be revised
Mhm.
after it was delivered by Paul Bernard. Barry Letts greatly disliked the way the Ogron Eater had been realised by the production team and tried to limit its inclusion in the serial. So that's why it was on the screen very briefly, and you never saw it again
yeah,
because Barry Letts thought it was rubbish.
yeah. Um,
He weren't wrong, was he? Really?
no. But I mean, like the actual Luna episode. Um, Interesting commentary though. That they introduced the fact that a lot of people that were sent to the moon for disagreeing with the government, and again, that doesn't get paid off. That's
No,
a weird thing that they did with this episode, whereby it doesn't really get paid off.
no, it doesn't. It doesn't pay off, but it also goes a long way to show why the president and Chief weren't prepared to listen to the Doctor and Joe.
But again, it doesn't help their character towards the end either, because
No, no, it doesn't.
this is again why I would have made General Williams the traitor, because then it would have made sense that they got sent there anytime they questioned the government, because he would have been in danger of being exposed. So I would have made him be sent there, and again it would have been another way to introduce the Master, because the Master would have been the person in control. So couldn't help thinking of Cygnus Alpha throughout that episode. Yeah, I mean, there's so many influences through, you know, um, again the fact that they mentioned the sort of scenario that sets up Babylon 5. Uh, that was that was freaky, but that happened to just pop up. Um, Not to get too political with this, but what do you think of looking as well? Because obviously, like I mentioned that my love for Blake Seven, in particular the season 1 of Blake Seven, um, in terms of sci-fi writing, how do you think Doctor Who handles it, given that it is generally aimed at a younger audience?
Um, well, I mean, I'm not so sure that this era and and through through the Tom Baker era, they were really aimed at the same age audience that William Hartnell's and Patrick Troughton's were aimed at. I think this particular era, Doctors 3 and 4 were aimed at a slightly older audience.
Yeah, they probably thought of inheriting the people that had started with the show.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. I was going to say it's probably grown a bit with the kids that watched it to start with.
Mm.
Um,
But see, there again, see, I mean, there are episodes with the Hartnell era that are more adult than just being, because I know a lot of people brand it as sort of children's TV, but actually, you know, the fact it was never produced by anything other than the BBC drama department. It was never produced by the BBC's children department. It was never has been. It's
yeah, I've always considered, if anything, Doctor Who's family viewing.
yeah.
I mean, when it came back, particularly up until towards the end of the Tennant
Hmm.
era. When it was on a Saturday night, if I wasn't working Saturdays, we would all sit down and watch it together. And if it was when I was working on nights and I had to go in on a Saturday, we normally recorded it on the Skybox, and then we'd sit down as a family together on a Sunday and watch the story. So, me, my missus, and my two boys, we used to sit together to watch it. So, I'm assuming that was probably the same for a fair few families, in the 70s and possibly the 80s as well.
Yeah,
So yeah, I would consider it a family show, but not so much for the younger kids when Tom Baker was
yeah.
when Philip Hinchcliffe was running the show.
I mean, there's things that they do. I mean, I would definitely say that the Jonathan Turner era probably went a little bit more towards the younger audience.
Yeah.
I think that's a fair statement. I don't think it. I mean, you had sort of
No, it is a fair statement. That's why I only said for Doctors 3 and 4,
yeah,
because obviously once J&T took over, and then it changed to Peter Davidson and Colin Baker and Sylvester McCoy. I mean, there was like you say, there was a lot of pantomime going
yeah.
on in the Colin Baker era and that, and you know, pantomime is something that's quite popular with kids even today still.
But
So
my genuine problem with that is that I feel like if you're gonna talk down or make something that you think is suitable for children, children tend not to like that.
yeah,
Um, like I'm just thinking of back to my own childhood as well, and when I was thinking about sort of the things that I liked when I was a kid. Most of the stuff I liked when I was a kid is sort of stuff that is still really good. Movies and stories that are done today. That is, it's the you know the silly kiddie movies were okay at the time, but they weren't as good as the really good movies that were done at the time. You know, I remember being a kid and wanted to see like RoboCop because RoboCop was not a silly kids film, and it's the same thing with Terminator. Terminator was something you know that was when I was a kid. Everybody wanted to see Terminator. It was a scary as hell film for a kid, but kids loved it. You know, they did a TV cut for Terminator because kids wanted to watch it. It's a terrible cut. It's a terrible cut to that
I can
film.
imagine was it about 4 minutes long or something?
The stuff they cut out of it is just ridiculous. But
Nice, nice night for a walk.
yeah,
He's wearing clothes now. What
yeah.
happened there?
Yeah, they actually did cut out the whole bit, but they didn't cut out the bit whereby that scene happens. They did the whole nice night for a walk bit, but they didn't do. They would cut before one of them would pull out the knife, and you would just see the guy just drop down onto the floor. So they actually cut out the bit where he pulled his fist out of him and he's covered in blood. All that was cut out. So the guy just went "Ugh," and just landed on the floor. You never saw it. It was all stuff like that. It was really bad. But the best one was when they did RoboCop. When they did RoboCop for TV. This was brought. I remember this because they even mentioned this on the radio. It was so bad. But you know the scene whereby he walks into the general convenience store and there's the guy holding it up, and it's the first time you see RoboCop walk in, and the guy's got the gun and he's effing and blinding and shooting a RoboCop. The dub for that was absolutely horrendous. The guy's just like going, "Fun me, fun me, fun me." What was the other one? Clarence Bodiger. No, not Clarence. It wasn't Clarence Bodiger. It was Bob. What's his name? Oh hell. The guy who creates RoboCop.
Yeah.
He, what was it? He said, "You're gonna be a bad money funner." Like this is stuff that they did. Like it was um, That's what's so good about well written, well filmed science fiction. Will appeal to every fan, whether they're 5 or 75. I mean, it's just generally films in general. I mean, what is a good film is a good film, and it doesn't matter how they aim at that. You know, if you specifically like Kindergarten Cop, you could argue is a kids' film. I mean, it's definitely aimed at a younger audience, but it's not dumb, and it's not trying to be dumb. You know, whereas you've got other movies then. I mean, there are other movies that are definitely kids' films that only appeal to a younger age, and they've got a shelf life. You know, you was it Beverly Hills Cop TV dub featured a great mother freaking airhead. Yes. Oh yeah. Um, but yeah, when a great film is made, you know, the kids like. I mean, I remember going to see Batman. You know, I was too young to go in the cinema to see that film. I still did. Um, and it's still, I think, is still a good film. Um, kids don't like being talked down to. They just don't like it. You know, you want, and I think that's what's good with Doctor Who, with particularly this era of Doctor Who that we're watching now, is the fact that it doesn't try to dumb things down. Yeah, it's got a couple of moments whereby Joe is kind of like, but Doctor, why do we have to do this? Well, you see, Joe, this is why. You get those moments, but the actual intricacies of the writing for this, of having the power plays that we had with the Master, the Daleks, the Ogrons, the Draconians, the Humans, that power play dynamic going on, that's a lot to keep up for anyone,
Oh yeah.
you know, and it actually does play into the next episode. So, getting back to what I was saying, 7.8.
Fair enough.
That's where I'm at with this. I'm scoring this. I'm scoring it a 7.8. I think that it's strong. The points are off for the last episode, the rush in. Couple of botches here or there, nothing major. And that's pretty much it, really.
I'm giving it a straight 8.
Yeah, that's I can't argue with that. It's a good number, and I think it's very very strong. Next week we're doing Planet of the Daleks, and guess what? It's another good one. It genuinely, the production values for that episode follow. It's genuinely it's a good follow. It's a totally different type of episode. This was all concrete walls and bulkheads. That episode is all rocks, jungle, and plant life, and it's a very very different feel. It's a totally different direction, a totally different dynamic to this episode. Um, don't know what you know of Planet of the Daleks.
Well, I know that it follows Frontier in Space.
Okay. So you've got a few surprises on the way.
Yeah.
I think that it's not as complex as this. I think that we get a couple of silly, suggestive things that happen in the episode, but I think that you're gonna watch it and go, "We've just had two six-parters back to back, and they weren't boring, and they were good." So Nicholas put fantastic episode for Planet of the Daleks. Yeah, I mean we don't want to big it up because obviously don't want to set expectations too high, but given how well this one went down, the next one goes down really well as well. And again, it's two parts of one story. I think it's got a better finish as well. So, although
I look forward to it.
yeah, it's got a better finish. I've heard a lot of people say it's a little more than a remake of Hartnell's first Dalek episode. I don't agree. I don't agree with it either. For a very, very, very good reason. This is the Daleks being the Daleks, and it's not often that you get the Daleks to see the Dalek Society as a society. You get to see these things operating on a level that we don't normally have. These are Daleks functioning independently. They're functioning as a sociological structure, which you didn't have in the first one. But the other thing is about Planet of the Daleks as well, is that it is actually saying, look, this is if let me put it another way, if Hartnell's version of the Daleks was more, this is the society that is already at war, that the war's already come and gone, then Planet of the Daleks is, this is what happens if you allow this to happen again. This is in other words, Hartnell's one is kind of World War One. This is kind of on the preamble to World War Two. So it's there's nothing wrong with having the similar ideas given the context of the characters that you're dealing with. I mean, if you were to look at, I mean, if you look at any monster story from Doctor Who, they've all got a very similar structure. They've all got a very similar thread. But the Daleks actually have a purpose for this, for what's coming. They actually are invested. This is the whole point of the story that we just watched, is the fact that they were trying to create a war between the Draconians and the humans so that they could take over the galaxy, and they're using what's the name of the planet? Something like that. They try to take that planet and use that as a base, as the kicking off point for galactic domination, which is not what was happening in the Hartnell episode. So yeah, there are, and the other part of not to give too much away to Chris, but
It's alright, I don't mind spoilers.
but there is more of a suicide mission going on in Planet of the Daleks as well, by the other side. So that is a different dynamic as well, because that didn't happen. There was no fight back. But I think that's when we leave for next week. I hope you've enjoyed this.
I have indeed.
And if you have, also, if you're watching this, feel free to give us a like and a thumbs up, and leave a comment in the comment section down below. Any questions you can leave as well. I'm trying to get back to you whenever we can. Yeah, next week, Planet of the Daleks, another 6-parter. Good on. So we'll leave you with that, and we'll see you next week. Have a good weekend, what's left of it, and see you next Saturday for Planet of the Daleks. Take care, guys.
See you later.